What's going on, guys? So I saw this segment on CBS regarding Lyft and Uber, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So what I'm going to do here is share the clip, and then I'm going to break it up into segments, and I'm going to comment on each portion of it as the video progresses, and then we'll have some final thoughts at the end. Let's get started.
While the ride-hailing giant Uber battled chaos and a whole lot of controversy this year, competitor Lyft made some big gains. The company has added service to 150 U.S. markets in 2017, so that makes it available in more than 350 areas across the country. More than 80% of people in the United States can now hail a ride on their phones. John Blackstone got a lift from Lyft's co-founder and president, that's John Zimmer, to learn his keys to success.
Traffic is a plague in cities across the country. Morning, John.
Morning.
When I went for a ride in San Francisco with Lyft president and co-founder John Zimmer, we got stuck in a typical jam.
Look at all these cars. They're individuals driving themselves and no one else sharing the ride with them.
Ride-sharing has propelled Lyft and its larger competitor Uber into multi-billion-dollar companies, both launched in San Francisco just a couple of years apart. Around the same time you were starting Lyft, there were some guys across town starting another company.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It's actually growing a lot faster than yours.
So they actually started with private cars, limos, a couple years before us. So they had a footprint. But before them, we launched a peer-to-peer transportation, which is kind of people using their own personal cars. And we're now the fastest growing rideshare service in the United States and are taking market share from those other guys.
Those other guys, Uber, have spent months dealing with a series of scandals that led to the recent ouster of CEO Travis Kalanick. A study of credit card transactions shows Uber losing market share as Lyft gains. Lyft says it now has 30% of the U.S. market. What's been the biggest challenge that you've faced?
There's always been doubt behind our set of values. Taking care of our drivers, taking care of our passengers was really important. And many people said that's going to hold you back, the other competitors too aggressive. And we said these are two different things. We're aggressively pursuing our values of taking care of people. And that is actually good for business. And I think finally people are starting to realize that.
I suppose the part that really confuses me here is where John Zimmer just states on record that they are aggressively pursuing their values, and that's what differentiates them from the competitor Uber. By pursuing their values, they take care of their drivers and they take care of their passengers. So while I agree that Lyft has a much friendlier face, is it not true that Lyft has partnered with Jaguar Land Rover, with General Motors, and with Google in an effort to produce autonomous vehicles that would inevitably eliminate human drivers?
In 2016, Lyft provided more than 162 million rides, 3 times more than in 2015. Growth this year is up 142%. Recently, you've told the people here, don't gloat.
Yeah, I think it's important. Look, anything that's happening with a competitor doesn't have an impact on our drivers, our passengers, and the people here.
While I absolutely respect what he's saying here, it just is not true. While I do agree with him as far as we shouldn't be gloating over the demise of our competitor, the fact is anything that happens to your competition is absolutely going to affect your business, which includes your drivers and your employees as well as the business itself. Uber is losing market share. Uber looks like a bad guy right now, and Lyft is the good guy. And as people transition from the bad guy to the good guy, it absolutely affects Lyft in its entirety.
Upstairs, we have the product and engineering team. And
we first met Zimmer in 2012 at his startup called Zimride.
We're trying to make history and by building a new form of transportation. You know, there was canals, there was railroad, there was highways, and there was Zimride.
In 2012, Zimride had a couple of dozen workers. Now Lyft has 1,700 employees and more than 700,000 drivers. As Zimmer sees it, the drivers are making good use of cars that would otherwise just be parked.
We have 250 million cars in the United States that are parked 96% of the time. This is completely inefficient.
The city of San Francisco says that one of the impacts of Lyft and Uber has been to create more traffic in the city.
Yes, we've seen that reporting. I think that the opportunity here is to make traffic go away. And so we believe we are doing that in instances. And if there are cases where we're not, and that's based on data, then we're going to work with the local government. We're going to fix it.
Both Uber and Lyft see self-driving cars in their future. Lyft is developing technology in partnership with Google, General Motors, and Jaguar Land Rover.
We think that in a few years, you'll be subscribing to a miles plan on Lyft the way you were subscribed to a minutes plan on AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile.
All right, guys, so let's be very clear about this. I touched on this earlier, and here we are at the point. Uber and Lyft plan to go autonomous. Granted, Lyft has the friendlier face, okay? People will still associate Uber with Travis Kalanick. That's going to happen for a long time to come. Just like a lot of people are going to see Lyft and associate Lyft with John Zimmer. Okay, I've got no problem with Uber. I've got no problem with Lyft. I just want to point out some facts here. Lyft and Uber are drastically different in the way they approach the public. Travis Kalanick is very loud, obnoxious, and abrasive. He's a rule breaker. He's kind of the bad boy of the ride-hailing industry. Now, you go over to Lyft and you got John Zimmer. He's a very soft-looking guy, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all. He's soft-spoken. He's an average-looking guy. He's a zen-looking guy. You know, he looks very calm, very at ease, very at peace. A stark contrast to Travis Kalanick. So when people look at these two companies, they see Uber and all of their legal issues in conjunction with Travis Kalanick's abrasiveness. You know, kind of like David and Goliath. All right, Uber is the bad guy in most people's eyes at this point, and Lyft, the soft-spoken, happy-go-lucky company, is the good guy. But the point is, regardless of how you feel about each company, the end goal is to produce autonomous vehicles with a plan associated so that you can get X amount of miles for X amount of dollars, and that is the point of this entire video. Both companies are going to, at some point, start eliminating drivers as they roll out autonomous vehicles.
You've already disrupted the taxi industry. Are you going to get up against the automobile industry in a way now as well?
We're really focused on the customer and what customers want and providing that experience. If that means we can provide a better experience than the alternative, then we're going to do that.
And Zimmer practices what he preaches. When he gave me a lift, he borrowed a car.
I currently don't own a car, and I carpool to work with my co-founder in the mornings.
So you can get along in a major city like San Francisco without a car?
Absolutely.
And that's the future that you see?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to free up a lot of space within our cities. It's going to save people money.
There's no doubt John Zimmer is a ride-sharing visionary. But for now, just like the rest of us, he can still end up in gridlock. For CBS This Morning, John Blackstone, San Francisco.
Ride-sharing visionary and appears to be a really good guy. I love his no-gloat policy, don't you?
I was going to say,
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. With all the difficulties Uber and Kalanick have had, don't just focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, and just do it well. I like aggressively pursuing our values of taking care of people. You go.
All about the customer, right?
Nicely done.
All right, so it's the end of the segment. Of course, the news anchors are sitting around talking about, you know, their views on the video that we just watched. And here's what I find interesting. I touched on this earlier, and John Zimmer is the nice guy of Lyft. He is the face, he is the voice, he is exactly what Lyft needs him to be at this point in time. Now, he might really be a nice guy, but you have the news anchor sitting here perpetuating the image that he's projecting of the company, which is, we're friendly, we're happy. Oh, I love the no-gloat policy. He just seems like such a nice guy. Of course he does. He's the voice, he's the face of Lyft. He's the good company versus the bad company. Of course he seems nice. Now, perhaps he is nice in real life, but let's not let his persona on camera fool you into thinking that he is not about getting richer and richer and richer, okay? Uber and Lyft have a purpose. Their purpose is to make as much money as possible. Lyft's goal at this point in time is to take market share from Uber. Market share translates into more money. All right, more money for the company means more money for the people that own it. This is the goal, guys. Regardless of whether Uber's bad and Lyft is nice, it doesn't matter. Both companies are in this for the bottom line, and please don't lose sight of that. They are going to do whatever it takes to become more profitable, to make more money, and become more wealthy. That's the point of the video. I love Lyft. I use Lyft as a passenger. Absolutely. I use Uber as a passenger. Absolutely. The problem is you have an abundance of drivers for Uber and Lyft now. Everybody wants to drive. Now it's about passengers. Uber truly looks like a bad company, and you're probably going to have a lot of passengers that have good hearts, they want to do the right thing, moving over to Lyft. So of course, Lyft is going to gain market share. Lyft could, I don't see it happening, but Lyft could dominate the market, at least in the United States. It could happen. I doubt it, but it's absolutely possible. But no matter how this goes, the fact is, both companies are in this for the same thing: market share and money. Comment below, tell me what your thoughts are. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, Uber or Lyft on.